Hi world, it's Keely and I'm back for another video. This is going to be me kind of talking through the next portion of my Q1 curriculum and what I'm going to be focusing on all throughout February. This video, I wasn't sure if I was going to film it today or next week or the week after or when I was going to film it. But honestly, the work that I'm doing right now for work is kind of breaking my brain, and I was sitting there doing the stuff that I'm supposed to be doing and like almost crying because the work that I do, I work in social services, specifically in victim services, and I have for 12 plus years, and it's just not a fun field to work in. It's very heartbreaking, it's very kind of soul crushing, and I'm doing a huge literature review right now on violence against a specific population, and it is, however bad you think it probably is, assume that it's that bad, but then worse, but then also recognize that a lot of the violence never gets reported. So what literature we have is limited. And if you take that all into consideration, you can tell why then it breaks my brain when I spend 8 hours a day doing a massive literature review and have been for a week and a half. Taking a break to film this video. For February, my focus is going to shift from disability research, disability studies, and identities to Harlem Renaissance and African American literature. And I have stacks of books here that I thought I would kind of talk to you guys about. Now, one thing that I have talked about a couple times on my channel for this year is that I am doing a James Baldwin slow read. The first book that I finished for this project was this one, which is Begin Again by Dr. Eddie S. Glaude Jr. This one was incredible. It's a commentary on the current state of the United States in terms of racism and oppression, also kind of a biography of James Baldwin's life, and then also kind of the before and after of the civil rights movement and now. And I thought this one was absolutely incredible. I'm so happy that this was the first nonfiction that I picked up in this massive project. And I realized that as much as I've been saying I want to do a James Baldwin slow read, I keep saying slow read for this year. And I think that's just my brain not slowing down and realizing that I really should be absolutely taking my time when reading through James Baldwin's work and all of the books written about his work and his life. And what really got me thinking that way was this book, because the author has spent 30 years studying James Baldwin. And I was like, okay, maybe I need to slow down. So that's what my goal is. My goal is now to slow down and really take my time with all of these books and really try to absorb them and study them. And as much as I absolutely love that process, slowing down is the hard part for me because I want to absorb all the things and do it very quickly and then move on to the next thing. And that's the way it is across every facet of my life. It doesn't matter if it's running, if it's playing video games, whatever it is, I want to do the thing, achieve the thing, move on to the next thing. And I don't want that to be the case for all of these things that I'm trying to learn and expand my brain with this year. So this was the first one that I finished, and I am still reading and very much going slow with it, Go Tell It on the Mountain by James Baldwin. I haven't picked it up in a couple days, but I do want to pick it up very soon and continue on with it. But I haven't picked it up in a couple days because instead I took a break to start reading these two. So along with learning about the Harlem Renaissance, I am also doing a lot of reading of African American literature, and I picked up this one, which is Read Until You Understand: The Profound Wisdom of Black Life and Literature by Farah Jasmine Griffin. She is an African American studies, literature, history professor. I spent her entire life reading African American lit and talks a lot at the beginning about her experience with that process and that being such a huge part of her life, and how it was really because of the relationship she had with her dad, who was very much someone that was constantly reading, constantly taking notes, a very artistic person, constantly teaching her about his experiences and how to live in the world and how to do that through literature. And her talking about her dad and her experience with him almost made me cry a couple times, because my dad was also a big reader, but not of anything that was like, just not the same. Just not the same. And I associate my love of reading with my dad because he did read all the time, but the experience and emotions that she feels towards her dad and her memories of him, I just don't have with my dad, and so it was making me very emotional, but I was really enjoying this one. But each chapter, she is breaking down different pieces of African American literature. And the first chapter, she talks a lot about The Bluest Eye by Toni Morrison, which I happen to just buy because on top of trying to read African American literature, I'm also trying to read books that are banned from Pennsylvania schools. And one of the most contested books is The Bluest Eye by Toni Morrison, which I had never read. And I was like, oh, well, this is the perfect time to read it then. So what I decided to do for this book is for each chapter where she talks about a book, if I have that book, what I'm going to do is read the chapter and then stop and read the book and then go back to read the next chapter. So I read the first chapter, which is on The Bluest Eye, and then the second chapter, she talks a lot about Phyllis Wheatley, who was enslaved and a little girl and one of the very first published poets of that time period, one of the very first African-American published poets, female published poets, and I was just learning so much about Phyllis Wheatley and didn't realize that she was also named after the ship that kidnapped her and brought her, just learning a lot. So I don't have any books about Phyllis Wheatley, but I did add some to my cart on bookshop.org to eventually purchase and get to as part of this project. So I'm reading that one, but yesterday and this morning I've been reading The Bluest Eye, and I just got up to the next section, which is winter. I finished autumn and I am writing all over it, and what I'm going to do soon, I have a meeting in 15 minutes, so when I'm done that meeting, what I'll do is I will go to Lit Charts, which is basically like Spark Notes. I just prefer Lit Charts, and read the information that's on that website that covers the beginning section of this book, just to make sure that I'm like really gaining more context. Some of the stuff that I'm underlining is stuff that was mentioned in this book because it's like, oh, now I'm picking up on that. Also, just this is a very difficult book to read. There's a section at the beginning where Toni Morrison talks about her impetus for writing this book, and she was inspired because of a little girl that she knew growing up that wished to have blue eyes, and all that signified about, internalized racism, anti-blackness, and she wanted to write about that, and so she did, and it is heartbreaking on so many levels. It is a very difficult read. I can see why white people in Pennsylvania would not want children to read this, or whatever age group this was presented for in Pennsylvania schools. Reading this now, I can see the areas where they would be like, oh, no, but shut the fuck up. For February, Dee Dee over at Brown Girl Reading, her book club that she runs is Read Soul Lit. She's had that book club for a very long time. One of the books that they will be reading through February is Invisible Man by Ralph Ellison. As I am reading a lot about James Baldwin, Ralph Ellison's name keeps coming up a lot. This book was first published in 1952, and it is about an unnamed African-American man that goes from the deep south to the streets of Harlem. And I have had this copy for like a week, but I am very excited to get to this one, so I will be reading this one as part of my trying to read all of the things and all of the people that James Baldwin was reading and his contemporaries, and I've been seeing that people compare James Baldwin and Ralph Ellison, and so I'm just excited to read those. Then I have some other books here. I am also reading as a project these two together. So I went and I got The Souls of Black Folk by W.E.B. Du Bois, and I am reading then The Love Songs of Du Bois by Honoré Fanon Jeffers, and will be reading these very slowly together because this one is heavily inspired by his writing and life, and I want to have the context. So I did start reading this one. I read the first section. I'm only up to page 13. I haven't picked it up in a couple days because I've been reading everything else, but I will be reading these two together. I have my stack of other books with James Baldwin in mind, so I'll be reading these, but I also then found Native Son by Richard Wright, which was written in the 40s, and it inspired partially inspired James Baldwin to have an essay called Notes of a Native Son, because this one is called Native Son. And I know that there's a ton of controversy around this one, so this is another one that I am going to be reading. I also then picked up a copy of Black and Blues by Imani Perry. This one has such a beautiful cover, but I got this one thrifted and the dust jacket was disgusting. So I ended up throwing away the dust jacket, and I'm just happy to have a copy of the book. But I'm a little bit bummed about that because the cover is really beautiful. But I will be reading this one. I also found a copy of, is it Alan or Elaine? I'm not sure how to pronounce it. Elaine Locke's The New Negro Aesthetic Selected Writings. And he was a huge part of the Harlem Renaissance. And I see his name pop up all the time when I'm looking for Harlem Renaissance people to read about and to read their work. So I'm very excited that I have that one. I also then have this one, which is The Wretched of the Earth by Frantz Fanon. I was really surprised to find a copy of this, and someone also wrote all over it. And I'm a little bit excited to have a copy of this book for me to read and digest, but then also to have whoever read it originally, their notes. Then another classic that I have is The Color Purple by Alice Walker. I have never read any of Alice Walker's work. And I also from the library picked up a copy of Passing by Nella Larson, which I have never read. This one is inspired by Nella Larson's life in 1920s Harlem, so that's why I got that one. I also grabbed a copy of I Know Why the Caged Bird Sings by Maya Angelou, which has a quote on the back about it from James Baldwin, so that will contribute to also reading books that James Baldwin was reading. So excited that I found this one at the library. This one literally just came out. This one is Queen Mother, Black Nationalism, Reparations, and the Untold Story of Audley Moore by Ashley D. Farmer. And I have never heard of Audley Moore, which I think is the point of this book, is to make sure that people are aware of her and all that she did. This one says, in the world of Black radical politics, the name Audley Moore commands unquestioned respect. Across the 10 decades of her life, Queen Mother Moore distinguished herself as a leading forebearer of Black nationalism, the founder of the modern reparations movement, and from her Philadelphia and Harlem homes, a mentor to some of America's most influential Black activists. Very excited to read more about especially women, Black women that were involved in Harlem, and even more so if they lived in Philadelphia too, because I'm also trying to learn about Philadelphia's history. And then this one I saw on a bunch of lists of books to read that are about the Harlem Renaissance or take place during the Harlem Renaissance that are fiction books. I have read one book by Colson Whitehead, which was The Underground Railroad. I have not read The Nickel Boys yet, but this one was just the one that my library had, so I went ahead and grabbed a copy. And the one that I am most excited to pick up next is The Warmth of Other Suns by Isabel Wilkerson. This one is about the Great Migration, which was from 1915 to 1970, the exodus of almost 6 million people from the southern United States to the northern United States. And as a result of that, Harlem was one of the cities that was greatly impacted and changed, and then led to the Harlem Renaissance. And so I am just so excited that I found a copy of this one at the thrift store to pick up soon. I have read her other book, Cast, which was absolutely incredible. So this one's been on my list to get to anyway, just because she wrote it. I have to wrap this up because I have to hop back on my laptop for a meeting. But I just wanted to talk about that, like, this is a lot. I'm not going to finish all of these books in February, obviously, but these are just the ones that are on my radar, along with like 75 other books. But I am very excited for it. I'm having a really good time. I'm also trying to take it easy as much as I can and make sure that I'm reading things that are just kind of like mindless a little bit. One of the books I'm also reading is Gwen and Art Are Not in Love by Lex Croucher, which is a queer King Arthur kind of inspired book, because everything is just kind of a lot right now, and I need to make sure that I'm taking care of my brain while also trying to learn about the things that I'm learning about, which is super duper important, to take care of your brain, but also to be learning about these things. So let me know if you've read any of these books. Do you have any recommendations for ones that I should add to my list? Do you want to join me throughout February and ongoing of learning about the Harlem Renaissance? It's perfect timing for Black History Month. Super excited about it. I will have Dee Dee's channel linked down below if you would like to watch her content. Highly recommend, and then join in on Read Soul Lit and the books that they will be reading for February. But I think that's it. So I will catch you guys in the next one. Thanks so much for watching. Bye.